Greetings and welcome back to the channel. If for the first time you're coming across my channel, please remember to subscribe. About a year ago, or a year and a bit, now I do a video about reparations, where I was watching a program on the program on the TV. So I was watching this program called Good Morning Britain about a year ago, and I was watching how the interviewers were interviewing the president of Guyana, and the topic they were talking about is about reparations. So I did a video on it about a year ago. It's on there, but I will put up it's gonna be clearer if I put the video here or the image of it. And as you can see that YouTube copyright that video, put a copyright on it, which is understandable because there's ways to remove the copyright legally. And over the years I've been doing YouTube, so I've learned how to remove copyright the right way. But this time it's not allowing me to remove the copyright. To remove the copyright, I have to remove the video. So I want to know, make a new video so that I don't lose that video completely, but I also want to retain some of the things that was on that video. I kind of have an idea the reason why it was copyright. Maybe I left it too long, stuff like that. So fingers crossed, I will do it over again now. So stay with me and watch this video. If some of the things is or the month is not right, then it's because I did it a year ago. But it's a good video, and it's funny because I'm doing this now in February, which is the USA Black History Month. I did it in October, which was the UK Black History Month. So let's get into the video and come back at the end and have a little conversation.
For descendants of slave traders from the UK to pay significant reparations to right historical wrongs. He's demanding that those involved in the transatlantic slave trade be posthumously charged for crimes against humanity.
This is a big topic at the moment. It's being discussed around the world. Ghana President Mohamed Ali joins us live now from New York, where he's going to be addressing world leaders at the UN General Assembly.
Greetings. Today is October 6th. Here in the UK is also the Black History Month here in the UK. Talk about today. I'm still on what you could call the topic of slavery. So I was watching a program the other day. It was on the news. So it was on the news. Let me check and tell you directly what it was. ITV Good Morning Britain, but I know it was a British TV station, and they were interviewing the Guyanese president.
Maybe had an ancestor 7 or 8 generations ago, long before they were a twinkle in their great-great-great-great-grandparents' eye. Why should they have to pay now for what an ancient ancestor did? Or why should they apologize for what an ancestor did centuries ago? Why do they still carry that burden?
Oh, it's not a burden at all. You are one of the beneficiaries of that slave trade. So this is not a burden. You should be concerned, and you should pay, because you today are still benefiting from the greatest indignity to a human being, and that is a slave trade. And not only did you benefit during the slave trade and your country developed, but look at what it caused the developing world. During slavery, resources was used to build your country, build up your capacity. You were able to then become competitive. You were able to invest in mechanization, and developing countries like ours were left behind. So you should be very concerned because you are a prime beneficiary of the exploits of slavery.
And you feel that it's not just about the finances involved here in terms of reparations for slavery, it's about the gestures. And you think that the British royal family should make a big gesture, don't you? What do you mean? Hand over a palace to your country?
Well, no, we don't want the British to hand over a palace that we built. You know, if you go into many of the palaces in Britain, you will see the lovely green heartwood from Guyana. You will see the sweat, tears, and blood of the slaves who were exploited.
So what do you want?
And the revenue that was earned from their exploitation. So we're not asking for a palace. We're asking for justice and a fair form of justice to the ancestors and to the greatest injustice that has ever been done to human beings.
We look forward to
We're not asking for palaces. You can enjoy the palace, and when we visit you, we'll also enjoy it.
It was like a head teacher talking to a naughty child.
Reparations is an issue of economic justice. It's an issue of human beings and resources and wealth were stolen in a way that is inextricably linked to the kinds of inequalities that we see today. And there is a moral and economic and political case to be made that that wealth needs to be returned.
It is not only the value, it is the loss of time. It is a loss of competitiveness. It is a loss of human dignity. It is a loss of our education system. It is the culture that we lost. It is all of this indignity that surrounded slavery that we must consider. Well, you know, this year in Guyana, we commemorate the 200th anniversary of the Demerara Rebellion. And it took 200 years to get an apology from one of the families. I don't believe that you would want us to wait 200 years for reparative justice and for us to take this conversation forward. CARICOM would have set out a 10-point plan on what should constitute reparative justice and what should constitute reparation. And the calculation goes into billions for the region.
But almost every civilization on the planet owes its existence and its prosperity almost always to crimes in the past, be they aggressive wars, be they different forms of slavery involving different movements of population. You can go right back to the Greeks and the Romans. Why just target one particular era in history? Some would say that's the arguments of political convenience. It's a handy handle to hang your argument on.
I think you're doing a great injustice to compare slavery with any other of the historical dignity that slavery brought to people. That is the first thing. And I'll give you an example. Coming on to your program a few moments ago, you were speaking about net zero and climate justice. We are speaking about, the world is speaking today about climate justice and compensation and how we address the issues of climate change. And this is the problem. We live in a very unjust society. You know, we condemn completely the war in Ukraine. But if you look at the mobilization of resources in the war in Ukraine, in 2 years, you have mobilized more support for Ukraine than we have mobilized for Haiti for 60 years. You have mobilized more support for Ukraine than we have mobilized for Palestine for 20 years. You have mobilized more support for Ukraine in just 1.5 years than we mobilized to address the issue of hunger in Africa for 3 years. And that is the type of unjust way we have been dealing with these crises. And we are not going to tolerate the injustice that occurred during slavery to be compared with any other system. Slavery, we all agree, was the greatest injustice ever done to human beings. So we should not ever try to compare this to any other system.
No.
There is no other system that has created greater injustice than slavery and indignity to humankind in slavery.
You've seen all of that and listen to what he had to say. And also watch the reaction and listen to the voice of the narrator. The uncomfortableness in the way him slam his hand on the table when him asks the question about the palace. You can also see that the presenter that is with him, the female presenter, wasn't too pleased when he went into the comparison of suffering. Slavery, as it was and as it is, cannot be compared, in my opinion. Slavery as it was, the transatlantic slave trade, as it was, as it is, and as we are today, cannot and should not be compared to any other system. This was the most devastating, the most dehumanizing. I take, for instance, I'll give you an example. My name is Williams. That's not an African name. You understand me? As what Marcus Garvey said, his name is Garvey. That's not an African name. That's an Irish. Garvey is Irish. So, you've been displaced, disnamed, disorganized, disrespected, and then not compensated. Take, for instance, the Jews. I'm using one example, just the Jews. In estimation, the Jews said they lost 6 million people. 6 million. They've been compensated, reinstated, resettled, and thriving. Been still supported by the US and others. So where is our compensation? Look at the war the other day in Ukraine. It's still going on. Look at the amount of money. He mentioned the amount of money they were able to put together in a short space of time to support. But say, look how long Haiti have been struggling and suffering. Look how long. Look how long they're talking about hungry in Africa and other places. And all know they raise more money in a year and a half than they raise in a lifetime. So, enough said. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe, and make a comment.
For centuries, the transatlantic slave trade stood as a monument to human cruelty and greed. Millions of Africans were stolen from their homes, shipped across the ocean in horrific conditions, and subjected to unspeakable brutality. The legacy of this barbaric system continues to cast a long shadow over the world, shaping the destinies of nations and the lives of countless individuals. To this day, we grapple with the profound consequences of this injustice, a debt that remains unpaid. The time has come to confront the legacy of slavery and to finally address the harms it inflicted, harms that continue to resonate through generations. The transatlantic slave trade wasn't just about forced labor, it was about the systematic dehumanization of a people. It was about the tearing apart of families, the suppression of cultures, and the denial of basic human rights. The wounds of this era run deep, and we cannot truly move forward as a global community until we acknowledge and address this dark chapter in human history. Reparations are not about blame or guilt. They are about taking responsibility for the past and creating a more just future. The impact of slavery didn't end with emancipation. The systematic oppression of black people continued through Jim Crow laws, segregation, and discriminatory policies that permeated every aspect of American society. These injustices have created a persistent racial wealth gap, disparities in education, healthcare, and housing. Generations have been denied equal opportunities, their potential stifled by the enduring effects of a system designed to keep them subordinate. To deny the connection between the past and the present is to ignore the undeniable evidence that exists all around us. The economic disadvantages faced by many black communities are a direct result of centuries of exploitation and discrimination. The fight for civil rights was a significant step forward, but true equality remains elusive. Reparations are not a radical idea, they are a necessary step towards righting the wrongs of the past and creating a more just and equitable society for all. Many argue that slavery was a long time ago and that we should simply move on. But the wounds of history don't heal overnight, and the consequences of injustice have a long shelf life. Imagine a family whose ancestors were denied the opportunity to build wealth, to own land, to access quality education. Now imagine that family struggling to make ends meet generations later, their options limited by the systemic disadvantages they inherited. This is the reality for many descendants of enslaved Africans. Reparations are not about punishing anyone alive today for the sins of the past. They are about acknowledging the debt that is owed and taking concrete steps to address the ongoing harm caused by slavery. This could take many forms, from direct financial payments to investments in education, healthcare, and economic development in black communities. The goal is not to simply apologize for the past, but to create a future where everyone has a fair shot at success. Section 4, a call for justice, a demand for repair. The call for reparations is not new. It has been a persistent demand from black activists, scholars, and community leaders for generations. From the early efforts of Callie House and her fight for pensions for formerly enslaved people to the contemporary work of organizations like NCOBRA, the movement for reparations has gained momentum in recent years. The growing awareness of systemic racism and the persistent racial wealth gap have brought the issue of reparations to the forefront of national conversations. More and more people are recognizing the moral imperative to address the legacy of slavery and its enduring consequences. This is not just a black issue, it is an American issue, a human issue. It is a matter of justice, fairness, and equality. It is about acknowledging the full humanity of all people and creating a society that reflects those values. Section 5. Building a future free from the shadows of the past. The path to reparations will not be easy. It will require honest conversations about race, racism, and the legacy of slavery. It will demand a willingness to confront uncomfortable truths about our history and ourselves. But the potential rewards are immeasurable. By finally addressing the issue of reparations, we have an opportunity to heal old wounds, to bridge divides, and to create a more just and equitable society for all. This is not just about the past, it's about the future we want to build together. It's about creating a world where every child, regardless of the color of their skin, has an equal opportunity to thrive. Reparations are an investment in our collective future, a down payment on the promise of America. Let us seize this moment to finally confront our history and build a future worthy of our highest ideals.
To the thing. People are not subscribed. Please subscribe. And